video, we share a metaphysical perspective of what's going to happen within the next 2 to 5 years, clear signs of which you may have started seeing already across the planet, if you are aware, that is. There exists within the life here on Earth 7 pillars of the 3D matrix that holds and manages all the events of the Earth realm through mutual agreement of our souls and souls incarnated here over the lifetime of the planet. The 7 pillars being economy, government or politics, education, patriotism, culture, circus, and religion, which are intricately connected with each other in ways you cannot possibly imagine, until you start looking for connections through deep digging of events that seem disconnected until a pattern emerges. Under the oversoul agreement, these pillars often go through complete restructuring over a certain period of time due to various reasons, all discussed within our video on the oversoul, but mostly for a change of theme for the incarnate beings to explore. Very similar to the fact when you get bored of listening to the same song, eating the same food, or playing the same game, you need a complete change. This change in such matrix structures, ultimately leading to a change in experience, thereby resulting in growth for the souls incarnated. These are events agreed upon from an oversoul level by all souls taking part in them, which plays out over decades or centuries of time in order for the evolution of souls through experience to be complete. Same way, if the ice cream or the food goes inside your stomach in a second, you cannot enjoy the experience of eating the ice cream over the span of time you spend on eating it. Once in a while, the 3D matrix goes through extreme transition, through collective shifts, where it is broken down before it gets restructured via collective effort for a change in the collective experiences available for incarnate beings to explore. Since they collectively agree on an oversoul level, they don't need the old experiences of the old matrix anymore. We have come to such a point of great transition and transformation, and the whole universe is watching. Amongst the 7 pillars, the economy pillar is almost always the first pillar to fall, due to its nature of volatility and features that facilitates easy restructuring. However, all pillars being connected, one pillar upon its fall creates a domino effect, thereby initiating the fall of all 7 pillars over a few decades of time. Above all and beyond lies the architecture of the oversoul orchestration of events, without having a purview of which it becomes hard to connect the dot between the chain of events that unfold over thousands of years of time in absolutely the perfect order possible, no matter if humanity from the 3rd dimension can see it or not. We begin. A history written in inequality. From the earliest civilizations, human history has been shaped by repeating pattern. Economic power concentrates, political corruption rises, inequality expands, and revolution erupts. This cycle is not new. It is as old as humanity itself. Across eras and continents, the story is the same. Feudal Europe, where peasants sustained nobles who owned everything. Pre-revolutionary France, where the monarchy taxed bread while the aristocracy feasted. Imperial Russia, where serfs lived in starvation while the Tsar amassed wealth. Pre-communist China, where warlords and landowners controlled entire regions. Industrial age America and Europe, where factory owners profited while workers died in mines. Modern nations, where corporations influence governments and wealth inequality reaches historic extremes. Every major political revolution, French, Russian, Chinese, American, Asian, began not with politics, but with economic collapse and unbearable inequality. The economic pillar always falls first, and when it falls, it pulls the political pillar down with it. Modern society hides widespread poverty behind cheap consumer goods and easy access to debt, creating the illusion that people aren't struggling, even as real financial security collapses. Extreme wealth inequality where a tiny elite group hoards most resources, drains money out of the system, leaving the majority with rising costs, stagnant wages, and growing debt. Instead of recognizing this imbalance, people are distracted into blaming each other, while billionaires avoid taxes, control politics, and profit from the labor of millions. The real conflict isn't between political parties or social groups. It's between a concentrated group of elites and everyone else, and the system will continue to deteriorate until this fundamental imbalance is addressed. Why the economic pillar crushes the political pillar. Number 1. The economy determines political stability. Political systems survive only as long as the economic foundation keeps people fed. When the economic pillar weakens, food prices rise, wages stagnate, jobs disappear, debts increase, housing becomes unaffordable, and hopelessness spreads. No political ideology can survive widespread economic suffering. Economics is the soil, politics is the plant. If the soil dies, the plant collapses. Number 2. Power concentration creates fragile systems. Empires fall not because people revolt randomly, but because the top becomes too heavy for the bottom to support. When wealth concentrates, corporations control resources, governments serve elites rather than citizens, and exploitation becomes normalized. And at this point, the society reaches a breaking point. History shows the economic collapse always reveals political corruption, exposing how governments enabled inequality in the first place. Once exposed, the political pillar loses trust and eventually loses power. Government backed by elites only supports and caters for the necessities of the rich, backed by greed, thereby creating a huge separation of consciousness, deviating from the reality where the rich are only rich standing on the shoulders of the poor. Everything being connected, the money engine stops running if any part of the system is discarded or disregarded. But the rich, unable to match the frequency of non-rich, gets more and more detached from the reality of the situation, becoming secluded in their own lavish bubble of illusion, unable to see the shaking grounds upon which they stand. Until a tower moment is reached and everyone's attention is brought to the point of concern, which is survival of everyone is needed for the system to exist. Failing to see this for a reality will often cost humanity several revolutions over decades of time until balance is restored. Once the current economic system faces a correction, we will see a revolution of epic nature if not handled wisely. No matter if you're rich or poor, here are the facts about economy within the 3D matrix, most of which is discussed in our video on the 7 pillars of the matrix. Rather than asking for richness, ask for wealth and abundance, for it can come in all sorts of forms. Even ideas to create wealth is a wealth or abundance of sort. Rich is a status, wealthy is a state of mind, supported by mindset, practices, beliefs, and behaviors. A millionaire who needs $100,000 to survive a year is not as wealthy as a millionaire who needs $30,000 and has more ways to support themselves and the community. Wealth can only corrupt people if they let it, based on the 3 fundamentals: ego, greed, and lack, or rather a false sense of it. Ego, the root of all actions, clouded by judgment and beliefs that doesn't support the reality one is experiencing, but the one that serves the ego. Due to this faulty ego, the rich never realizes how temporary life really is, and any day can be the last day, and all the wealth is gone, and it'd be of absolutely no value once they die. Not to add, nobody is remembered forever. The race to be the richest man or woman is just a reflection of a limited and negative ego-based mindset. Lack. The idea of lack being established via false belief systems and the inability to realize that everything is here and now, just on different frequencies. And the moment you switch your frequency through beliefs, emotions, actions, and thoughts to one that resonates with your future self, the resonant reality manifests through orchestrated events and actions and process, seamlessly guided by the higher self. Henceforth, the only thing people can ever lack is the inability to understand how manifestations really work. Once realized, everybody can manifest all the abundance they need magically through synchronicities, following their highest excitement. Greed. The idea of greed connected with the false sense of lack analogs to the act of trying to fill a pitcher with the whole, not realizing you can always just identify the hole and close it. The whole being a false belief of what satisfies them or makes them whole. The other false belief aiding this is that this is the only reality beyond which there's nothing. There's only so much for everyone, and that there is lack of everything, and one must hoard it all to themselves as much as they can, since there are winners and losers, and there's not enough, and whoever has enough is the winner. This can also manifest as the illusion of power, engulfing almost all of humanity throughout the history of this planet. The greed for money, power, respect, abundance, wealth only reflects the failure to realize everything we will ever need is all here, only if the vibration can be matched. We are all whole as pieces of the big puzzle, where you all fit in as long as we are authentically ourselves, respecting everyone else's existence in their part of making the picture whole. The society needs everything and everyone that exists for a reason, and we have to collaborate together for humanity to be whole instead of trying to deprive others of the means to be themselves, just to feel a false sense of power, achievement, and greed-driven satisfaction. By being the full individual you need to be, there will always be harmony and not anarchy. Since everyone being the full picture, they all fit into the puzzle picture, making it complete. You don't have to harden everything and change yourself to fit in, since they automatically happen through synchronicities. Number 3. When the economy falls, legitimacy evaporates. People tolerate any system, whether monarchy, democracy, dictatorship, as long as life is stable. But when they can't afford rent, they lose jobs, they can't feed their families, wealth gap widens, and leaders seem detached, the public withdraws consent, and once public consent collapses, the political authority becomes empty and prone to collapse. Why the political pillar must fall, and why now? For the first time in human history, the pattern is global. This is not the fall of one empire. This is not the collapse of one system. This is a worldwide transition. If you haven't noticed already, as per Gaia's Oversoul Agreement, 2024-2025 has seen the most amount of elections across the planet in various levels of the government due to the same reason. It's a last chance and scope for correction for the people to choose what they wish to manifest to get the best of their preferred outcomes. However, stuck within the 3D matrix, many will choose against their own benefit, blinded by hate and other forms of distraction or manipulation, only to learn a better path through correction. These elections are also a scope for people to prioritize the idea of all systems must collapse because they are based on separation, control, exploitation, and fear, which don't benefit anyone in the long run. The political pillar must fall because it no longer represents the people. It protects elite interests over collective well-being. It denies transparency. It rewards compliance rather than creativity. It reinforces the illusion of division and cannot keep up with awakening populations. The political systems humanity inherited were built for old consciousness, old power structures, old fears, and old economic models. They cannot survive in a world shifting into responsibility, authenticity, decentralization, and unity consciousness. A pattern seen across history: the fall, renewal, and rebirth. Every major leap in human consciousness followed the same trajectory. Inequality becomes unbearable, where people feel the system is no longer fair. And then the economy collapses, and currency, jobs, stability evaporate. Political structures are exposed, and corruption becomes obvious. Old regimes fall, and therefore monarchies, empires, dictatorships cannot survive economic collapse, and a higher level of organization emerges out of it, not immediately, but inevitably. Humanity is now entering the same process, but on a global scale. Why this time is different, and why it will stop now. Looking back at history, you will find recession after recession, bubble after bubble. Humanity keeps building stability through systems, only to find more flaws within the system. Given away through boom and bust cycles, unable to figure out a system that won't repeat these turbulent cycles that has plagued the economic history. Humanity may have learned certain lessons, such as economic instability tends to follow periods of speculative growth over leverage, inequality, and unsustainable expansion. Bubbles are often followed by recessions or depressions, showing that boom and bust cycles are systemic. Political, social, and financial systems are deeply intertwined, and a crash in one sector often destabilizes others globally. Each major crisis reveals structural flaws and prompts regulatory, economic, and social changes. But they are unable to learn the greatest lesson of all, that we all need to survive for the system to exist. And a system that does not allow everyone to be who they are will sooner or later collapse and keep collapsing. This time it's no different, and it never will be until the system absolutely gets uprooted and a new system like nothing before is established. In the past, revolutions replaced one form of control with another. The French replaced monarchy with a new elite. The Russians replaced the Tsar with authoritarian communism. The Chinese replaced warlords with another strict political structure. Even modern democracies replaced kings with corporations. The cycle kept repeating because consciousness had not shifted yet, but now it will. As per Gaia's Oversoul agreements, humanity is undergoing a vibrational upgrade. Systems built on fear cannot survive in a reality shifting toward empowerment. This time, people can see manipulation clearly, since information flows freely. Individuals are awakening. Self-responsibility is rising. Decentralization technology exists. Governments can no longer hide behind narratives, and the collective vibration is shifting beyond fear. This time, the cycle ends because the economy is collapsing not into chaos, but into a higher system based on decentralization, creativity, and interconnection through a global currency. The political pillar will fall because the economy is shifting away from centralized control led by banks or central wealth managing or influencing authorities such as BlackRock, Oracle, Rothschilds, and Co. The old political structures are too slow, rigid, and hierarchical. People no longer tolerate being managed, and new ways of organizing society are emerging organically. The fall is not the end. It is the beginning. The fall of the economic and political pillars is not a tragedy, it is a necessity. It is the cleaning of old energy so new structures can arise. Humanity is stepping out of exploitation, hierarchy, scarcity, manipulation, and fear, and stepping into collaboration, creativity, decentralization, sovereignty, and higher consciousness. Every revolution in history brought humanity a step closer to freedom. But this is the last major shift the old world will ever experience, because humanity is finally awakening enough to create systems aligned with balance, integrity, autonomy, compassion, unity, and the fifth dimensional consciousness. The economy must fall, the political pillar must follow, and after the collapse, humanity will build something entirely new, not from fear, but from awareness. So for example, there's a desert, and there's a guy here who's selling water bottle. There's only 2 water bottles. And then there's another scenario where there's 50 people selling water bottles, and there's 10,000 water bottles. In this scenario, if there's rich and poor people, someone will say, I'll pay $10 for one of these bottles, and the rich can say, I'll pay $100. And then this guy can say, okay, I'll pay $1,000. And then this guy can say, I'll pay $3,000. And in this way, since the amount of bottles or water bottles available becomes too scarce and it's too less, the price of each water bottle can keep going up. So the value increases. But if there are too many water bottles, like this case, then what can happen is, if this seller says, I'm gonna sell it for $10, the customer or the buyer can say, I don't feel like paying $10. I'll go see if there's a cheaper option available. Since there's 10,000 water bottles, and this seller can say, okay, I'll sell it for $8. And then all the customers are gonna go and buy the $8 water bottle. But guess what? If there's another seller who says, okay, I'll sell it for $5 or $3, more people are gonna buy from the cheaper option, from the seller who's selling it at a cheaper price. So the price of the water bottles goes down if there's too many water bottles. Same way, if you print too much money, then the price or the value of the currency goes down. Now that we have created a system where we can't really print unlimited amount of money, let's say for example in the system there's $3 million, and in the society there's poor, and then there's rich. So that means now the poor will probably represent 80% of the society. These obviously has the middle class as well. So we are not quite, making too many divisions. We're just trying to keep it as polarized as possible. And then the 20% is rich. Obviously, this 1 million will go to the poor, and it's going to be divided amongst them. 2 million goes to the rich, and obviously it's going to be divided amongst the fewer rich individuals. Now what they're going to do, the rich, what they're going to do is, with this $2 million, each one of them has way more buying power than the poor over here. So they are gonna start investing. The rich are gonna start investing. In other words, they can also start buying. What are they gonna buy? They're gonna start buying resources. Sources that can be reused as sources again. What resources? Farms, farmlands, factories, media. This is a resource for information. Each of these once used as a source, can become source for the same necessities that it supplies again and again, hence the term resource. So these resources are going to be bought by the rich. Factories, farms, farmlands, media, housing, land. Sometimes they might even buy education. Sometimes. Most often they actually don't quite get into this territory because things get a bit messy. Now, once they have bought these resources, they start selling to the poor who are in dire need of these. And they're gonna sell at higher price. And keep increasing the price as they see fit. Now, once this kind of system is put in place, the rich can extract a lot of money from the poor, and they can keep getting richer. Now, once they keep getting richer, mind you, the whole economy is based on the fact that we never really have enough. And I don't quite remember who said that, but a famous rich person or wealthy person once said, well, he was once asked that how much money is enough, and he said just a bit more. This kind of gives you the idea that once you start making $1 million, you're gonna be wanting $2 million, and it keeps growing. Once you have a taste of 100 million, you no longer look back. You're always growing. You're always increasing. You look for becoming 500 million, and then a billionaire. And it never really stops. Now at this point what happens is, since they can't really stop themselves from wanting more, what they might end up doing is they might introduce a recurring system to keep getting richer without worrying too much about selling. They'll sell once and they'll keep getting richer over and over throughout time, as time passes. It can be something of a subscription. It could be something like a house on mortgage, where you keep paying interest. And you never really own the house, you just keep paying interest trying to buy the house, right? Now once that system is set, the division or the inequality of wealth between the rich and the poor starts increasing exponentially with time. The rich gets much richer and the poor gets much poorer. And if you consider the whole wealth division of the people as a rubber band with two polarity, this is the poor and this is the rich end, it keeps getting elongated like this, gets stretched that point is reached, this threshold is reached, there occurs a tower moment. It can be caused by just about anything, like stock market crash, or major virus outbreak, or pandemic, or natural disaster, just about anything. It can trigger this to break, and the rubber band snaps back to the point of neutrality upon the fall of the economy pillar. That's how the economy pillar falls down, or rather crashes. Now that we have discussed the fall of the economy pillar, we're going to talk about the fall of the politics pillar. Now, how the politics pillar, or the pillar of politics in the 3D matrix system, falls is affected by two major phenomena, or two major ways it actually happens. Both of them are connected to the economy pillar, one very strongly and one not so much. So we're going to talk about the first reason, or first way this politics pillar falls after the economy pillar falls. You see, the economy is a state or a measure of stability of the society, or the people, or the country. And if the economy pillar falls, like, all chaos sets in, everyone becomes unstable. And when everything is unstable and everything is falling apart, the people always need someone to blame. And guess who they're gonna blame? The government, who they voted to take care of them. So once the economy pillar falls, the direct effect, often always, is the fall of the politics pillar, because people will most definitely look for someone to blame, and the first person they're gonna blame is the politician, or the politicians, or the politics, and they'll definitely take the pillar down. And this is how we have seen a lot of government or political pillars fall down and become really unstable, because the people rose against it, revolted against it. That's how we have different sorts of revolutions, like the French Revolution, the American Revolution, Chinese Revolution, Russian Revolution. All sorts of revolutions happen and the politics pillar fall. Oftentimes it's because of the economy matrix and how it's connected through the people, their mindset. Now let's talk about the second way the politics pillar falls. And this way, this phenomenon is called the thermostatic politics using the voting system. Let's consider a pendulum. And this is the neutral state of the pendulum. How you make this happen is create a polarity. Say like two parties, one left and one right. And in the first move, we make people, which is the pendulum, move 45 degrees to the left. And this happens through the voting system. So the movement means the left party has won in the first move. So the people at this point are much more inclined towards the left. And if it fails, which it often does, it moves in the next move towards the right. And once it goes towards the right, it moves 45 to 45 plus degrees to the right. And this happens after 4 years has passed. And after 4 years has passed, if the right is doing something right, and the people feel like they're doing it right, then they will move further right. Say, this is the second move, and this is the third move. Let's make it 70 degrees. Now this is how it moves back and forth between left to right. Now imagine in the third step, the right did not feel right for the people. Then in the third step, they can also move to the left. Degrees to the left from the middle. And sometimes, if it feels right, after 4 years they can move, I don't know, even 90 degrees to the left in the fourth time. And then we make it seem right, and they move even more, so like 120 degrees to the left in the fifth move. But if after that it fails, they move all the way back to the right, way far right. Now as the pendulum keeps swinging left to right, there's a lot of tension. There's always tension. And this is how the polarity works. It makes the people move from left to right. And at some point they realize, they come to a point where they see that we have moved to extreme right, because the extreme left didn't work. And they moved extreme right, and they realized that it's even much worse. And at that point, this pendulum snaps due to the high tension. It's created by a huge difference of people, extreme right and extreme left, trying to pull on to this string with high tension, and it just breaks through ultimate chaos. Both of them can't really take it no more. They lose confidence they join together in the middle. So that's kind of how the other phenomenon works out in taking down the pillar of the politics in the 3D matrix. And that concludes our today's exploration. Our gratitude for your participation in the ascension journey of humanity. Feel free to like and subscribe to find similar videos in the future. Check out our videos from the Universe Unlocked series in the description. Comment here if you need more clarity on anything. Search for any specific topic that might interest or concern you. And remember to keep exploring. Until next time, 47, logging out.